So, welcome to my regular Scrabble Club night. Let me just make the first play before I get to too much of the introductory chatter. I'm thinking we'll just go with that. And yeah, we've got a couple of possibilities with the rack here already. We have the whole grenade set, the agented set. Grenade, etc. There's like derange. And a whole bunch of others. I think there's something like 5 in that group, at least in the NWL lexicon. One thing to be aware of here is that we have an O hook in front of Fey for O-Fey. We might have to think about making the blank an S in order to take advantage of this spot and this spot. So we'll have to think about that, because I don't know if anything else will fit unless we think of an 8-letter play through, for example, the T. And yeah, I think through to T is probably our best bet here. But we'll just think about that as we go. So this is in the CSW, Collins International Lexicon, which I am weaker in, as I'm a fairly new player when it comes to that dictionary. So there could be something very easy that we're missing. Not enough letters for something like abnegated. Let's see. Really do want to do something through to T. So what I'm looking at is this spot here. Because I think there may be some possibilities. You know, like something like this ending. Don't want to stare at this too long and burden time, but I'm absolutely convinced we have something. Maybe something with gates. Sometimes these just take a little bit of thinking. I should once again look at whether or not we have any 7s that would be with an S. So, something like this rack here. We should be looking at that 8-letter rack as well, through to T. Possibly something coming down from the F this way, but that seems a bit troublesome. Yeah, we've been burning way too much time on this. We just need to, I think, create a better opportunity for the next turn. I'm sure I missed something, but we'll look at the analysis board afterwards and see what it might be. Hey, Merlin, welcome. And yeah, Merlin, hope all the making is going well. Thanks for dropping by. And you have a good night. Hope you enjoyed the Nintendo Direct if you watched it earlier. Anyway, now that we did draw into an S, we have a lot of options. We have defines, we have finders. We should maybe look at something that will be coming through the N here for a double-double. That would double up on our existing N that is on our rack, and so that's maybe a bit harder to work with, but the ing ending with the blank as G is something that's always worth looking for, but I don't think fendings is good. Endings? No, I really doubt it. The I and GS endings can be rather tricky sometimes. Yeah, so if we have something with an A would go on this side. But, oh yeah, fade-ins. Fade-ins. That'll work. Afterwards, we will have to look at whether or not we missed anything going through the end there. One tile off from jilting, very continent heavy on our side now, but maybe we can just go for something like that next turn anyway. Dump a lot of those consonants at once and score reasonably if that lane remains open. So by way of background, this is a regular club meeting with some of the strongest players in North America. My current opponent, Jomi, it may interest you, some of you to know, is actually a very serious Kaizo Mario player. Not on Twitch, though. I believe he does have a YouTube channel for Kaizo Mario content. But not really showing that off today. He is an extremely strong player in this lexicon, and shines on these wide-open boards with long words. So, very tough opponent. I'm ahead, but not going to be complacent. Okay. Better balancing on the rack that we have now. I don't know if that has much bingo potential. Currently looking at lane through to S, lane through to T. But we should probably be looking for shorter high-scoring plays. We are currently 70 points ahead, but it's not my turn, and additionally, that's not a very safe margin on a board that is this volatile and full of possibilities. So we'll just have to scan around for potential plays while we see what our opponent managed to do. And yeah, not quite pancaked, unfortunately. Let's see here. ED endings are usually pretty strong. Something that would have an SK ending comboing into this spot here would be fantastic, because the K would score about 30 points by itself with a play like that. But I don't think we have anything that fits that description. We'll see. My opponent is taking his time, so we burnt way too much time on the first few turns and are down to 15 minutes already, but this will maybe even things up a little bit when it comes to pressure on the clock. The current time controls we're playing with are with a 20-minute maximum in this game and a 1 minute of overtime. So if you go overtime within 1 minute, you lose 10 points at the end of the game, and if you go overtime by 2 minutes, you do lose automatically. So that's something that was just part of the match parameters that my opponent proposed. We don't really have a hard and fast rule at this club when it comes to time controls, at least in the online mode, except the times tend to be around the 20-minute mark. Over-the-board tournaments tend to have time controls of 25 minutes to account for the time that it takes to write things down on paper, count up the score manually, etc. So yeah, a long turn from my opponent here, which is kind of scary because it might mean that he's... well, it's one of two possibilities. Either he's really kind of stuck for something, or he is close to finding a really big play. And my opponent in this game, Jomi, is a very strong natural anagrammer. Now, in the Collins lexicon, JA is a valid word, so one thing we should be perhaps looking for is A plays going down in this direction. Still trying to see if there's maybe some kind of K play. that I can go use in this direction. You know, like something with an SKED ending. But I don't think we really have that so far. So, yeah. We'll just have to wait around a bit longer and see how it goes. Should be looking for some alternative plays while we're at it. I feel like I haven't been using my time very well, actually, when it comes to finding something good. I believe something like cap or pack. Pack would be better in that position. KO is a Collins only word. Potentially K plays could go down here, but right now we don't have anything that could really take advantage of that for points. I actually do kind of like a play of this nature. I believe PAK is good, yeah. And he finds it. He finds the double-double, and that's going to be 82 points. Now, the nice thing is that it does leave me a K spot over here for the kind of play I was considering earlier. Scores quite a bit better. I think I just have to take it. So. Yeah, currently ahead, but not by very much, not by enough when you consider the fact that a player of this level will average 30 to 40 points a turn, so we are effectively even. And hey, Document, welcome. I'm currently playing against one of the strongest players in North America, and I'm only slightly ahead. As I was saying earlier in the stream, my current opponent, Jomi, is actually a very good Kaizo Mario player as well, although I don't believe he streams it live. So yeah, we'll see. This is my first week attempting to stream some of the club games from what is actually a regular group that I do play with. And it's a very young and nascent streaming scene. There are a handful of people who stream Scrabble on Twitch, and I'm probably the weakest player out of all of them because most of the people who do run this are former national champions and the like. So, what you will say is just some mid-level play that occasionally gets by on luck. Yeah, not much potential in this eye spot down here. Unless you have a Z for a ZAR or something. Farm. Not sure about that, but again, I don't know this lexicon, the Collins CSW lexicon, very well. Also don't know if I would have something through the R here. Because you have, you know, words like portend and so on, but we don't have something that uses all 7 tiles. So, let's see what we can do. This spot is kind of vulnerable when it comes to heavy consonants. Could do something risky down here with the P in that top spot, but whenever you play against a player of this caliber, you start worrying about them hitting both triples at once. So, let's see, maybe something down here. Still looking at the S lane. Maybe the PRE prefix down here, but I don't think you can pre-note something. unfortunately. So maybe just a very small play like that. I don't know. Don't like that. Maybe something that'll open up a bit and get rid of some vowels. Yeah, I don't really like a lot of my options here, but maybe this will do. Take that spot. Not very happy with that turn. Somewhat likely we missed something big, but... yeah, no more K available to take the spot in front of IWI to make Kiwi. IWI is also a Collins-only word. It is Maori for a large Maori tribe, and so there are a lot of Maori words in the international lexicon that are not in the North American dictionary. Could be some potential through here still. Don't really want to dangle the Z in too dangerous a spot, though. So, strategy, thank you for joining. Thank you for the follow. Strategy, it's very good to have you here. I'll be very careful about not mis-explaining the difference between equity and valuation. Not quite what we need for something like Zendo over there. Might just have to go for 30, and it'll open up with Z a little bit, but I don't think that's overly threatening, and now we do definitely have something, I think. That is definitely something. And yeah, been meaning to do some Scrabble streams for some time at a level that's perhaps a little below the median for what we normally see on this platform. I am about 1500 in NWL, last time I played over the board, but very new to Collins, so a lot of the visualization of the hooks will be kind of difficult, but that's how we get by. Now let's see. This has got to be something. Very embarrassing that we can't see. We have decorate up top, and actually in a position that's not horrible, just not very high scoring. Is that a spoon reference? I didn't think it was a spoon reference. But we can always be a little surprised at that. And yeah, you may be a little over my head there with that as well, but yeah, I thought it would be interesting anyway to try to stream some of the club games on my side while anybody who actually understands this game is hanging out with Josh over on the Montreal stream, I'm sure. So I can get away with some plays that are far more questionable. But we'll see. Whenever Jomi is burning a fair bit of time, I really do expect to be hit with something hard. Do we have something other than decorate? Through the O. I've got a feeling that it's got to be something through the S, but if we have some kind of really spectacular parallel through here now, I guess. Just going to be a little bit diligent about looking at this lane here as well, with perhaps the taupe hook. The sevens, of course, created serrated, I think. But sevens are not really relevant in this situation here, I think I just take decorate and go. Not too displeased with the positioning. Okay. Going to look at the over prefix right away. Overread has got to be good. I have to admit I haven't really studied a lot of those big prefixes very exhaustively, certainly not in Collins, but I think it's one of those situations where because it's Collins, you just kind of play it anyway to see if it goes. As with all the ing-s words as well, I think that even as an NWL player, sometimes you'll just take a stab at it, because Collins will just have stuff. So, yeah, of course you can be like overread. So that's the first thing that comes to mind in that area. Other than that, I think the priority should just be to get rid of the V somehow. Still looking at some of the potential for something sneaky coming off the S there that's really not as tightly defended as it looks. And of course it could just be Vos. I would be fairly happy with that, given that I am ahead by enough that we shouldn't be thinking in very bingo-heavy terms necessarily, certainly not against a player like our opponent who shines on open boards. Down to 6 minutes, he must be really close to something. We have both the blanks out already. We have the 3 U's and no Q. It could be that he's staring at something fairly clunky. You have to be aware of potential X spots. Not worried about the X bomb in this location, of course, given that you don't have the appropriate parallels from the R. We are going to go for overread. Wait, let's just be diligent. Let's see if there's anything we need to... Well, we're not going to outdo this play, I don't think. Unless read over or something is good, but... Oh, he's going to challenge it. Oh, 5-point challenge, of course, yeah. That's the kind of thing where I would guarantee that he knows this, but 5-point challenge when he's that far behind, I can see why he would go for that. As a TWO or NWO player, challenge timing in Collins is still something that I think is quite, well, quite difficult to pick up, I think. You think overread is Collins only. I mean, we have that out on the board already without that much of a risk of spoiling hooks, so let's plug it into the bot. Okay, it is Collins only. Fortunate guess on my part. So something that we should keep in mind is that this area here is still open for something. SW plays going over here are fine as well, except I probably don't want to open that lane. I do not remember if this takes the A in front, and regardless, that's a leave that I don't think I want to be stuck with. And given that we're in Collins here, this spot here, we're only really looking at the pool for E and C. Might just take some long Sorry, some low-hanging fruit. Really want to undouble the eyes, but I don't see great options for doing that. J-O-L, I think is Collins. That doesn't help. This location here, for something like AWOL, does still leave the L ending. And with the remaining rack, though, I don't know if I'm actually too worried about that. Do not like keeping a double eye. But I think I'm ahead by enough that at this point it's just a matter of survival. Usually, I think I'd be very wary of opening anything like that, but given the remaining pool and how consonant heavy it is, I'm not too worried about bingo potential. Just mostly leaving too many possibilities for X-bombs, etc. Which at this point I have to tempo to take care of them, except if I were paying attention, I would see the kind of medium-sized X-spot over there. And of course, this location here is maybe a little bit worrisome. At this point, though, I think as long as I don't give away anything really big, I'm fine. I mean, obviously, I kind of left this lane untouched, so between that and the X spot, maybe I should have thought a little harder about what to do with that, but yeah, 100 points ahead. I'm not too worried about that much else. So, mostly just a matter of playing through this. I mean, depending on whether the B and the R are still available after his next turn, I might just dump something like here. I would not do so if the B or R are still available. And putting my own R in front, I think, would also be inadvisable, given the... Not that there's much triple-triple potential with only 2 vowels in the unseen pool, but I think I do tend to get a bit paranoid about things like that. We'll see, though. I mean, only 3 in a bag. We'll have a pretty certain sense of what he's working with, and unless he's playing through a vowel, which is very difficult on this board currently, extremely difficult on this board currently, he might be stuck with a final rack that has maybe 1 vowel at most, and so it would be a situation where we're more worried about the X. I don't actually know, whoops, totally miscounted what I have. Lee here seems to be a setup for Ali up here. You know, if he's going to play cab up here or something. Given that the only thing I can do about that is to make an R play here and probably leave myself with tons of vowels. Yeah, I don't like the thing I'm looking at here, where I don't think I would have an out in 2 if I went for a block there, so the main thing I should be considering is whether or not this actually needs to be dealt with, given that I pretty much have a win in the bag. On the other hand, he's consonant heavy enough that he's not going to have an out in 2 either, so I think I'm okay with just... this is better in terms of my remaining vowels, but yeah, basically considering these 2 plays right now. That leaves me with all vowels. that leaves me with a double I, which I don't have an A to get onto, I don't think, so. I don't like either of these. I think they're both kind of terrible, but yeah, so something like a play up in this top spot using the A would give him about 40 points, so... I mean, we're just kind of counting spread at this point. It isn't going to make a huge difference unless there's like a B hook or something that I don't know in Collins that goes in front of LEE. I don't know my Collins hooks really, so this spot worries me a bit. Viler as a block is actually pretty cool, you say, if I had another E. Oh, interesting. Interesting. Did not consider. Please. 5 points. Let's challenge that just in case, because, like I said, I don't know it. Please tell me that is Collins only. Let's actually stick it in define. Yeah, definitely Collins only. I probably should have considered the possibility that you would have something like that. I totally forgot to look at this spot, but that's because I was concerned about blocking up top. No O to play through for the thing that Collins players do with their vowels. 2E is maybe not terrible. And then you would have S there. Wouldn't have done that this turn, of course, because of the remaining S on my opponent's side. So, yeah, just mainly learning those Collins 3 to 4s the hard way. I always felt that 3 to 4s were actually one of the more challenging things to learn, even in the introductory stages of learning TWL. So, 12 points there. I don't think we're going to do much better. Okay, so that's it for that one. Always feel very fortunate to scrape by with a win against Jomi. And we'll just get into the examining board, because we tend to do pairings on the hour. And so we have a little bit of downtime to just go over this quickly and see if I missed anything really significant. So, first turn. Let's see, just going to casually run things through the analyzer. See what it gives me. No, I don't think I would have done either of those. Keeping A blank. But maybe I can be a little bit clingy when it comes to bingo prone tiles and keeping that E blank early on. Because at that point I was definitely still thinking about the O spot here, S spot in the back. But yeah, we'll just... Wow. Played QT out of this and decided to close up rather than do anything else, like exchanging on what is usually a pretty clear exchange of rack, especially for somebody who does tend to have a preference for open boards. Have I ever played Mario Maker with him? I have played his levels and he has played mine. We haven't had a shared session or something. We haven't sat down together for the game. I think we only discovered our interest in Mario once pandemic conditions started to set in, so... Although I knew that he was breaking quite a few controllers over the Kaizo hacks. Detangle. But yeah, I do play his Mario Maker levels from time to time. He tends to make them quite hard. I did see end gates, but I didn't know it. I don't know if that's a call-in or something. Okay, no wonder I didn't know it, because I actually did see that on my rack at the time. And yeah, I was looking at a lot of the 7s in this spot, in this turn, and I just could not find one. I was looking at the F lane as well, but I did not know Finagled with FE instead of FI. Teenage I probably should have found if I had enough time to look at it. And so yeah, I just decided to play that off and hope to open up for using the blank as an A, or just continuing to capitalize on some of the lanes on the right side. Interesting. Wow, look at that parallel. I mean, he was thinking in parallels, so he did capitalize on that spot with Shunt, keeping the V. But among these options that evaluate well, I mean, you're not really dumping to V that turn. Densify, okay. Didn't really take the time to look. I was pretty happy with Hayden's, I think. Although, yeah, I took it on a double on the left side. But then I think I wasn't really thinking too carefully about how these would score, and probably underrating the points that it would get off hooking phase. Because, you know, I just saw the double word score and decided to go for it. Bovine, yeah, that's what he did. Obs. That's how you know the Collins lexicographers are reading Twitch chat. I did play Jilting through here, except I played it in the other location. I do think that with a difference of 14 points, I would not prefer this. No, I would not. Well, I mean, you would get the ×4 off to J, but I don't think I would prefer that. And, you know, this location, given that I was slightly ahead, kind of leaving this relatively closed, did work out in the long run. Emitting, he did find it. Took a bit of a long turn to do it, but well worth the effort as the only bingo, the only one being the one that goes down on a double-double. I wonder if he saw that quickly and was just trying to find alternatives to leaving this hotspot. No 7s or 8s here. And yeah, went for that play. Once again, I think I was clingy when it came to keeping at least one E. But that's just what I'm comfortable with as somebody whose bingo knowledge leans a bit high probability. Look at this, Rabdome. That would have been fun. Define Rabdome. Rod-like structure in the retinula, also Rabdome. A Rabdome for my horse. Or my Rabdome for a horse, shall we say. That would have been a spectacular find. Did I miss something here? No, I didn't. Okay, good. I was a little bit concerned. Yeah, I was kind of thinking about that. I was looking at AME, but that's, I think, just some Collins uncertainty creeping in. And, yeah, that's fairly clear play, I think. 30 points to get rid of that Trek. Still Vel heavy, but between 30 points there and something like an exchange, I think he is taking it. Zerda is Collins that I don't know, I think, or at least don't know well. I have briefly looked at all of the Power Tile 4s and 5s, but it's not something I know very fluently, so... But we're learning Collins the hard way, and that's just how it'll go. That's quite a lovely play, though, in terms of keeping a very decent lead as well. And that Nert's there. What is this? Zarin. Is this something I should know? Collins 6, not surprised I don't know it. And what did I even wind up going with here? Ah, yes. Did that even show up? Yeah, a little further down the list, but I think I was happy with it. Given that we are about even at this point, and I have racks that... Well, I have leave here that is encouraging me to keep things moderately open. Ovum would have been a nice find. There. Rumored would have blocked me off. Yeah, a lot of possibilities here, and he ultimately does go with mono. Recrated. Yeah, that should have been obvious, but I don't think I would have gone for that position. Cratered, with the C defending there. No H's left in the pool for the parallel. That would have been quite nice. Would have resolved partly the issue of the vulnerability being created down that spot as well. And that comes later. For now, I think I just went with Decorate because I saw it. Pretty big difference in points, but I don't know how comfortable I would be dangling a triple lane like that. If I had seen Cratered, I think Cratered would have been most comfortable. I do have to kind of speed through this because we are getting to round 2 pairings in just a moment. So let's just speed through this, see if I missed anything really critical. Roy, yeah. And... okay. Yeah, well, maybe look at this in a bit more detail. I see what you're saying now, strategy with the Viler spot. Yeah, completely missed that. Completely missed that. But I guess I wasn't thinking about hooking onto the back of LEE as a form of blocking, and so that's why I wouldn't visualize that. And that is, of course, the correct endgame for somebody who does no Bleeze, which is not me. And yeah, not exactly a tight endgame to walk through. So I am going to be getting into the next match in just a moment. So we'll just make sure I get back into the lobby for that. Now my next opponent will be Korob, who also does play Collins predominantly. I think I'll just send that to her. And 20 and 1, yeah, I think that'll be fine. Okay, yuck. Yep, going into this was familiar with how our group here does tend to do pairings around the hour, or I guess about every 45 minutes, given that we start a quarter past the hour for the first round. And so it was a bit of a test run to see if we would have time to go through the analysis board, but I'm glad we saw that missed opportunity for Rabdome, among other things. Probably not enough time between rounds to do something like a detailed endgame analysis, but we can at least step through the analyzer and see the big plays that we missed. The Woogle's analyzer, of course, is just giving you the bot's view of the raw value of the play independent of position, and without the kind of longer-term considerations that you would get off simulation. But very good for just visualizing quickly what 8s or 9s or other spectacular things were missed. I did hear in the club chat that one of the other games that had gone on in our group this evening had multiple disconnected 9s. So if I remember, at the end of this stream, we will head over there to look at that table just to see what went on, because that sounds pretty spectacular. And that's something that we would definitely want to witness. Okay, long turn to my opponent's side while we figure out what to do here. I probably just want to get rid of the bug combination in some form. Unless there's maybe a good play through the E. Or with, whoops, the R hook in this spot. That would allow us to get rid of some of this stuff. But I'm currently just looking at something like this. Not great keeping the double T like that. Doesn't score too well, but you know, this is just such an ugly thing to work with. I was eager to get it out of my face. This also kind of closes off the front lanes that would have been possible with something like a C in front of Hyde. So we'll see what happens with the top left quadrant as we get in a little further. I should be thinking immediately about whether I can have that A hook up top. Alternatively, of course, Collins does take a JA as a 2. Yeah, I probably just want to get rid of some consonants. Hooking this 25 like that, unless I want to keep the T for the TR synergy as well as the hook. Too vulnerable to other hooks coming in, though. Let's, that's pretty equivalent. Don't know about that. This does open up access to the top left now, which was formerly a little bit awkward coming off of the B. But the right side is still kind of weird. So, let's see, yeah. Cannot for the life of me remember if it's an R that goes in front of it. It's like Raji, or is it on a Razi? And one came in. Hello, welcome. We want to get rid of some of that stuff. This is the natural way to do it. I like it. Does open up the left side here on the triple, but in terms of scoring and rack management, I'm pretty happy with that play. Of course, I didn't know that we would draw that many vowels. Yes, one came in. I absolutely did see the Nintendo Direct. You're quite welcome to chat with me about it, and I'll respond as well as I can while I'm in the middle of this. And yeah, knowing that it's mostly people from the Mario Maker side who come into this stream, certainly we're all quite welcome to come and talk direct with me. Not that we can use it given how vowel heavy we are right now, but this is an interesting spot for a P hook off of PST. Yeah, Splatoon 3. I was extremely pleased with Octo Expansion back when that released. I really thought that it took the concept of Splatoon campaign design to a whole new level, and so I'm really eager to see if some of those lessons will be carried forward into Splatoon 3. Because, yeah, Splatoon 2's campaign, you know, it was kind of like just a retread of one's campaign if a lot more weapons had been available from the start, but then Octo Expansion actually properly built on a conceptual base of a lot of what Splatoon 2 multiplayer was mechanically bringing to the table, so booning. Booning, booning, booning. Do I want to give her an extra 5 points here for something that actually looks pretty plausible? Booning, yeah, I'm fairly convinced. Now, what do we do here? I should mostly be thinking about how to get ourselves out of vowel trouble. And I don't like a lot of the options here. This is good in Collins. It's only 10 points. I think it's good in Collins, but it's only 10 points. Yeah, this is a bit of a rough spot. And it doesn't really do much to build towards a plausible rack for a 7, given how much other Drek we're dealing with, so. This might take a bit of thinking. So, 1K-Man, did anything else in particular catch your attention? Let's see. Something like that's not too bad. A little bit more turnover, keeping the P. 18 points. Just had to remember to visualize EA as being valid in Collins. Miitopia. Okay, I missed Miitopia on the 3DS, so it was interesting to see them give that a new lease on life. Triangle strategy for sure. I was very fond of Octopath Traveler, and I'm even fonder of tactics games in a style of Fire Emblem, so triangle strategy, we might even run the demo on the stream at some point just to give that a first look, but I don't know if we'll find the time for that because we're buried in so much stuff already. We started running Ori and the Will of the Wisps last night, and we'll be back to the regular Mario Maker show over the weekend, so now, I'm so close to something here. You know, looking at things like the IER ending. But yeah, we'll see. I don't know much about Miitopia apart from the fact that it was one of the kind of last gasps, I should say, of that sort of me-driven or Street Pass-driven design of games like Tomodachi Life and the Street Pass games themselves, Find Me, and so on. And that just kind of got bundled up into one final package of ideas for the 3DS that never saw much of an audience because it had come so late in the system's life. So that will be interesting to watch. But yeah, triangle strategy for sure. I had been waiting for them to do more with the Octopath Traveler art style. And we'll see how that works out. Kind of a long turn for my opponent. We are in a deep deficit right now But the last move did at least open up a fairly viable consonant spot later. The problem with this lane, of course, is that it's very vulnerable if you play a 7 there to counterplay on this triple here. So these bingo columns that are one tile away from the edge of the board are sometimes not as good as you would hope in terms of actually gaining spread on your opponent. For a rack like this, I should be thinking about what other places we should be working with. I don't know about hided. I was thinking about hided earlier when I was holding the D myself. Let's give her 5 points. Have to learn these things the hard way. That might even be good in NWL now that I think about it. Yeah, it's totally good in NWL. It's just one of those brain fart words. Having the T available here makes me think immediately about ATE endings. Not with the consonants that we have, unfortunately. You can't really do much with that. I was originally thinking would play like Grave just to get rid of the V, but now that actually just continues to close up. So maybe don't like it. Something like this would fork the board. Maybe that is the way we should go. There are no parallels off the V. And so you would open 2 lanes, one going down here, one going down here with the R that we're holding. So 14 points, kind of weak, but maybe the fork is our best shot. I don't know. Kind of a 2 to 3 consonant to vowel... vowel to consonant ratio, rather, in the bag. Not a huge consideration, perhaps. Don't like it, but we still have the P for this lane if absolutely necessary, or indeed, if we have a P start, we might as well just use this lane. I think that would be the first port of call. So yeah, one came in. I definitely thought as soon as they announced a Smash Season 2 in terms of DLC characters, I thought they had done that pretty much explicitly to make sure that Xenoblade 2 gets in some form, because that was the one that sort of just missed the deadline for the first round originally, given when the game came out and was developed. Which doesn't quite explain how Fire Emblem Three Houses got a character in first, but then I think there was a bit more collaboration with Mr. Sakurai on that front. But yeah, as soon as they announced Season 2, I thought, okay, we should definitely be getting Xenoblade 2, because having a second season of content is just made for that. I want to either have a parallel here, or a play with a big consonant here, that will how should I say it? Yeah, something like Mew here, because the lane still remains open up top. I don't think coming down here is the right idea, and regardless, I don't have a good play for it. So yeah, seeing a duo character for Pyra and Mithra, I think was quite a lot of fun. It's kind of interesting because starting with Smash 4, they had really begun to move away from that combo character design in terms of splitting up both the Zelda and Sheik duo, as well as, what was it, Samus and Zero Mission Samus. Zero Suit Samus, I should say. But then, I think the thing about the blade switching in Xenoblade 2 is that you kind of always had to do... what was it? Pyra and Mithra as a combo character in some form. Not really too fond of keeping a double R there, but I really don't see anything better. Okay, we're in business. Got the blank. Got a potential NG ending, which will not be what we need anyway. Again, I sort of expected the double R to be a problem here, and it is. Let's think about that. This has got to be something. Rangers. Rangers is good. Got lots of potential fits down here. Rangers does not have a good second spot, though. Yeah, one came in. I actually never caught up on the first two No More Heroes games because I sort of missed them when they came out on the Wii. I do know that they were ported in advance of No More Heroes 3 to the Switch, but that's just something I have not been able to fit in. So, Rangers, Garners. That does not help us if this spot gets taken out. And regardless, we are so far behind that we'll need that plus another play. So we need to keep things reasonably open, which is fine because we do still have a lane open here. But now, unless my opponent has a really good play here herself, I don't think she'll go out of her way to try to block that. Given that this spot here is pretty clogged, and I spoke too soon. I spoke too soon. What a block. Tay, I believe, is Collins, unless I am confused. Alright, back to the drawing board. Oh, you know what? That spot there doesn't quite reach. What I'm looking at is something like Garner's off here. Only 62 points because it doesn't quite hit. And the other problem with Garner's is that that also closes off this lane. It opens up a spot here and here. But you'd be kind of restricted in terms of what tiles you're dealing with. I don't really see a better alternative, though. I was trying to look for something through here. But I don't think that's happening, so yeah. And actually, no, there wouldn't be enough room for play on this lane. You would have to have something like an 8 starting with S here, and that's very restrictive. So luckily, we do still have lanes open on the top side, so currently I'm worried about closing down too much with a bingo that doesn't even score so much. And I wonder if there's something much better, like some crazy 9 that comes through here. Actually, let's think about crazy 9s that go through there. Nah, we have to take it. Can't burn too much time on stuff like that, given that we will want a second find. But the thing is, the pool is currently quite unfriendly for that, as is our rack. I don't think building towards a second bingo is likely to happen. We need to be thinking about preparing for some kind of queue plays, particularly because there are no U's that remain available and no S for SUQ here. Q stick is going to be a real problem. Yeah. With a rack like this, we should always look at the LIKE ending. Because it's sometimes surprising what you can get out of that, but with what we're dealing with here, doesn't look likely. I would like to get rid of one eye. And Aeolian, welcome back. And yeah, Aeolian, we are still mainly doing Mario Maker, at least on weekends, but this week we've been mixing it up a bit with a bit of Scrabble and also Ori and the Will of the Wisps, which we started on tonight's stream yesterday. But yeah, we have so much Mario Maker to catch up on now that we're back on Twitch. Really don't like a lot of my options here. Don't want to do much to destroy this position. I'm 140 points behind. I'm very likely to lose at this stage in the game with what is left in the bag, but I also don't want to, you know, just blow any of my remaining chances either. And that's always a bit of a tough call in games like this. I mean, otherwise, like if I were just thinking about leave, I would be, nah, even that's terrible. Don't like my options. There is IWI. Actually, if I could set up something with a K-hook, I don't know if I want to burn that eye. There's only one eye left in the bag, and a Q at least has a lot of A and T to go with it, but main risk of this is that you really start to invite either a Q stick situation or a situation where the opponent plays a Q this way. But no S's though, and ugh, this just blocks off over there. And yeah, Aeolian, I do encourage you to try to platform. This went into open beta back in October, and it's still under very active development. But most of the major clubs and tournaments have already migrated there because the interface is very nice, quite stream friendly, and the competition isn't all elite either. There are some people who queue for games at at all levels, I would say. Yeah, I don't like this at all. In a situation like this, actually, I wonder if I should be thinking about how to Q stick my opponent. But, you know, at this point, I think this game is lost. So, don't know how much time we'll have between rounds to look over this and see what went wrong. One thing that you discover very quickly about Scrabble is that even when you have a massive loss like this one, a lot of things that look like luck are often still your own mistakes. And it's really just takes a lot of play to recognize that. You know, that even when you have games where it looks like your opponent is absolutely thrashing you with better racks, that a lot of those situations, a surprising number of those situations, could have been avoided or mitigated. And yeah, Aeolian, they do have bot games that are available on Woogles as well, but the bot is extremely difficult. Very, very difficult. Even some championship players, you know, like former national champion level players, struggle with the bot from time to time. But there are people asking for matches at all hours at all levels of play, so we'll hopefully have more instructional and coaching content on this stream if interest in doing Scrabble streaming is something that picks up. I would like to do this a bit more regularly, but my streaming times tend to be inconvenient, so we'll see what works. So yeah, Aeolian, I don't know if you also caught the Nintendo Direct, which one came in and I were just talking about. One came in to answer what you said about Kingdom Hearts. I've not played any Kingdom Hearts. I do know that it's kind of infamous for the comprehensibility of its plot, or perhaps lack thereof. Yeah, I mean, at this point, whoever draws the queue is likely to just dump it on this spot. I don't know if I should just leave it open or not, but I guess the other problem with playing here is that I really did close off opportunities going down there. Not that there were that many without something like an H available beside a U on this location. So yeah, I think at this point I'm just going to try to play through this game, and not too embarrassingly, if I can manage it. Because this is very much a lost game. And that just happens. Sometimes you do know well in advance that it's not going to go. And yeah. What should I be doing then? Let's see. Might just think about doing some kind of silly play for points. 6 vowels, 9 consonants in the bag. Want to keep an A for potential Q situations, I think. Very vowel heavy there, and don't like it, but surprisingly nice looking rack some of the time. A bit heavy on the vowels with a doubled A there, but it's the kind of rack that makes you think, maybe I'm not in a world of hurt. Like, you see that I'm down by 130 point margin, but if I had something like a bingo right at the end while Q sticking my opponent, that would be the plausible comeback route. I'm not really doing much to build towards it, unfortunately, but... Oh hey, something interesting to look at here is that you have a potential E spot to play through. And there's the Q. Yeah. Are demonyms valid words? To answer your question, usually not. There are a lot of things that look like them. So, for example, English is in the dictionary because it refers to something to do with a billiard ball. Like a spin that you put on it. So there are a lot of things that look like that, but... And there are a lot of things that they just took out of the dictionary and are taking out of this current dictionary I'm playing as well, that are things that are considered racial slurs. And so, for example, something like that would have been the verb that was playable but is being phased out, as far as I know. not really that one of my options. Interestingly enough, by putting the C out here, I actually did create something worth looking at here. With 3 tiles in a bag, I don't know if anything's going to happen, particularly because my opponent has played off to Q for a whole whack of points, and so it's not like I could have a comeback with a Q stick. But but if you had like a CATE ending, yeah, so close to something like allocate or something to go through there. I don't think any kind of spectacular finish is happening, though, to be totally honest. But no A's left in the bag, 2 O's left in the bag. Yeah, this is not a good spot. I do get pretty stuck in situations like this, but might just have to... Still too many vowels. Oh, I think it's actually good in Collins. Let's just do that. And yeah, Aeolian, that's very much the case. French, to cut into thin strips before cooking. So yeah, no spectacular comeback happening here, but we have at least recovered our position above 300 points, which... I mean, at this point, it's not about winning the game, it's about understanding the principles of how to play well enough to have something to talk about and at least show off how the thought process should work. But something interesting here is that sometimes the non-prefix might give you something interesting. I was also looking at the O in that location. But I don't think anything big is going to happen. We can always look at it afterwards. And yeah, Aeolian, when you know words like that, like CWM, maybe, that's already well on the way to, getting started with competitive play. Just learning the things that are very instantly useful in specific game situations. Nothing left in the bag, so we should just play off at this point. Can I... Let's see. Yeah, I don't know if I have a 6-tile play going down there. If not, I'll just play like something like Talon or something down that spot. I don't think I have much else to do. Let's just take it. And lose, and lose, and lose. Will my opponent hit 500? That's the question. But yeah, I am playing against a very strong set of opponents here, and I do lose to them regularly. But that's a learning experience, and before pairings come up for the next round, we'll just make sure we at least have a bit of a casual step through this game to see if we missed anything really hideous. And yeah, erect through there, so she did not manage to see something that played off all those remaining tiles. which means we will just look for a decent outplay. This is 12 points. Oh, you know what? We're playing Collins. I completely forgot that the N would have hooked there. I wonder if we missed some huge plays previously from not looking at that, actually. We probably did miss something gigantic. But we'll have to look at the examiner afterwards and see about that. Okay. Okay. Booning's not good. I made a bad call there. So yeah, let me plug that into define. Yeah, it's 5-point challenge. I really should have just looked at that. I don't know. It looked really plausible, though. And yeah, let's step through the examiner. I mean, you see, that's the thing, is that you look over a game where it looks like you've been blown out by 150 points, and there are game-losing mistakes that you make along the way that have nothing to do with luck, and that's why we have to step through it. So let's see if I actually have time before next pairings. Yeah, we can step through it at least casually. So let's go to the analysis board. See what my opponent stared at with the opening. Yeah, lots of options there to score with Z. Lots of potential in Z if she keeps it as well, as you can see with some of these suggestions, but I think... Yeah, that's interesting that she decided to keep it, but keeping what? She decided to go hide... Yeah, I don't know, because I would have thought that if you were keeping the Z with a rack like that, you might think ahead to how to set up for it, but because my temptation would just be to... Oh, yeah, just to set up for, you know, a really good scoring opportunity with that right away, but let's see what we did. I don't think I knew bitter with a U. And that's because it is from way back in, what, the 16th century? Bitter. Very archaic form of the bittern. And that's what the International Collins Dictionary gets you from time to time, and it is sometimes controversial among some players that we still have words carried over from Spenser and Shakespeare and so on, but I honestly have no complaints. Just have to learn them. Yeah, some huge plays here, my opponent. And she decides not to take to Z. Possibly because she was thinking ahead to hooks and the like. I did not think about that. I was looking at the R on the end for hider. I just did not think about the tar, which I believe is an animal. It's just a word that can be hard to see because you don't necessarily think about HR as a two-letter combination in that order. But yeah, that would have scored quite a bit better than the 25-ish plays that I was looking at. So yeah, so if I knew hided, I probably would have taken a look at that, but as we saw in that game, I did not know hided. That in either location seemed to be reasonable, though. I was at the time thinking about opening up the top left. Zealous, of course, punished me for that immediately. Oh, interesting that she went for this spot, but with a 5-point difference, I can see why she would not... there's no real difference between the Z in this location and the Z in this location when it comes to double word score potential, because there are no parallels going over to Z like that. So, between those two, yeah, I guess the other consideration is just the placement of a vowel or consonant over this spot. But, you know, 5-point difference. I don't know if that's a particularly important adjustment. Obviously, the ST ending is much better than the UT ending for eventually taking care of that 3-tile extension. Interesting that the evaluator thinks I should keep PR. I was very happy with sacrificing 4 points for Vizier like that, even if it did open up the left side to an unchallenged phony. Did she have anything? No. She had no valid bingos on that move. Can't fault her for trying booning. It's very much our bad for not challenging. I think if you look at the 50-point difference in this game, that difference really just decide the rest of the game in a way. Because if I have that added tempo from my opponent losing her turn, we're effectively even. And instead I get completely blown out. Yeah, lots of parallels to look with. I did see aid. I probably should have looked harder for something like idea, but the general idea was to kind of open up in some form, so I think I was thinking along the right track, just not really seeing parallels that would have scored better. And of course, I did not really know confidently I'd taking a D. What do we got here? Strafed. And that was missed. So my opponent goes for daft, which keeps ERS, which is one of the better options when it comes to non-bingo plays, except of course she also had the benefit of 5 points off of me for a bad challenge. Ah, I did miss something. Perviate. You know what? I was looking at Perviate. I was thinking, you know, that looks like such a silly thing. I was looking at that. I absolutely saw that in my rack and did not think it was a word. And indeed, it is Collins only. So that's why I would not really have seen it through study, at least at this level of probability. I don't think I would have dared to try Perviate, even if I... Well, I mean, I saw it, but even if I had some sense that it was a word, I had no confidence in it. You can see that there are some plays that took advantage of the P hook that I had identified in the middle of the game. I had looked at that spot, but did not see these options when I was looking over it earlier, so... Parev. It would probably not be pronounced like that, given it is Yiddish. Parev. And reprieve, I don't know if it's something like a reprieve. Okay, that's also Collins, to prove. But yeah, kind of made a bit of a dummy play by going here, but I guess I was going for the fork positionally and thinking that I could open up chances for myself. Reposes. Yep, that does indeed go down in that position. Let's just compare positions for a moment. The only other option was deposers. My opponent would not have gone for that, I don't think, even though the parallel doesn't have as many issues, but the thing is, you don't... I think even with the S in the second position, which is unlikely, best not to gamble on triples when you're ahead. This is, I think, a pretty understandable position, even though it does keep the board very open to attacks down either lane. Mew, I think, was kind of the obvious play. The idea was that I really wanted to leave this open, possibly even extending to an ES or so. So that was a pretty clear turn. And yeah, very difficult to visualize the NY spot, which is only in the Collins dictionary. Because usually when you see a consonant beside a triple letter like that, it looks completely safe. And then Collins gives you stuff like FY and NY and so on that really makes you rethink how to read those positions. And you have to visualize them differently when you're playing in this dictionary. Pix was the highest value play there, and I do think that's more or less correct despite the double R. Interesting. And Unruly is a good play from her there because it blocks me off. Although, I guess the spot that I ultimately went for, this lane, rather than this lane, it's not like either of them score very well. I will have to see on my turn whether I missed a bingo that would actually hit a decent spot. Airings. Oh, okay. I would not have known that Airing took an S. And it is Collins only, that's why. Okay, so that's just, you know, dictionary knowledge. Again. Something like ringers, yeah. I did know the S-hook for Mew, and actually part of why I played Mew in the first place was in case the S-hook would be something that has potential. And I think when I picked up this rack, I just, first of all, forgot about looking at it, and secondly, underrated how many points I would get off hitting both of the triple letters, as opposed to hitting just double letters. Because I think it's easy to have a bit of tunnel vision when it comes to bingos, to look immediately for word scores rather than letter scores. Especially when you're holding low point tiles all the way through. So, grungers, grangers, etc. But yeah, we took a relatively weak option with garners there, and positionally it was not great. But that's how it goes. Oh, that would have been interesting. Now, what did she end up going with? Oh, yes, she ended up going with Foist. Okay. Understandable. Does kill this. Not that much will happen there at this point. Yeah, I guess something like an ME ending. Start, rather. ME start would have been interesting. Yeah, this was a really difficult rack to work with. It would have been the smart thing to keep an eye... Oh, you know what? I should have considered that keeping the K into a play like this does turn this to my advantage. If you look at the pool, the only threat that my opponent has to really score big on that spot is the M. And by keeping the K into this spot, I actually have a much better chance of turning that into something, especially with two C's in a bag, because then you can have a potential CK ending. And so in terms of vowel dumps, I should have considered that, because like this play also keeps the eye for potentially picking up the Q in this very late game situation. Even though even QI doesn't go down very easily. I suppose QI, you know, with IO in Collins, you know, things like that. But yeah, because I sort of instinctively didn't really consider plays like this for very long, simply because I thought opening up the scoring spot there would not be advantageous. But it's actually better for me, I think, than for my opponent. Oh, wow, look at that. My opponent misses. There is actually a way of remembering this set. It's like Matrices, Scimitar, Ceramist, and one more. Matrices, Scimitar, Ceramist. And there's something else in there. I'm just going to cheat and show off the bot. Yeah, because a player from Toronto who's kind of famous for mnemonics for remembering bingo tiles. I kind of remember him introducing me to like a phrase to remember this by. Something like the Ceramus mistraces matrices with a scimitar or something. And but S spot there, difficult to see. And my opponent is clobbering me hard enough already in this one. Yeah, I should have looked at something like that. Oh, okay. I know why I didn't. It's because I didn't really visualize CIT, since CIT is in Collins. And, yeah, so for those of you who are new here and new to Scrabble, the English language Scrabble scene has two major dictionaries. One is called NWL, which is North American, and one is CSW, Collins, which is international. And so this game was in Collins, where I don't know a lot of the basic short words, at least don't know them well enough to visualize them instinctively. Whoops, I think it's lexicon is the command that I had. It's a bit of a tutorial explanation. There we go. So yeah, I think I was just really stuck with this one because I knew it was kind of a lost game at that point unless I had some improbable cue stick situation. And yeah, I mean, this is the obvious thing to do at that point. As the player picking up the cue. I would have been in big trouble if I had picked up the cue instead. Given that... Well, I mean, if my opponent were looking at the bag and uncertain of whether or not I had the cue, I guess as the person ahead, she really does not want to be hit with a cue stick out of the blue, and so I don't know that she necessarily would have obstructed the possibility that I pick it up. So I think we both just kind of hedged on that somehow. Yep, totally forgot about QIN hook until a few turns later. Otherwise that would have been pretty interesting. Unless, of course, I had seen perhaps a way to fish off a tile. 3 tiles in a bag at that point. If I had time to really look at anagrams and think about, okay, the unlikely possibility that I could draw towards something going this way or this way, technically there are still 2 lanes open. But playing through these tiles while managing the rack that I'm holding on that turn, not that easy to do. And at that point it's just, you know, trying to get a big finishing play for style more than anything, because this is really a lost game and all we have remaining is our dignity. So. And, yeah, she does look at... She just plays Go there, I think. And that's just partly because you don't have parallels opening like that. Something like Goiter in that location would have been much harder to see. And so... And did I really have anything... Fontanelle! Oh, come on. Come on. No. No. Okay. A membrane-covered gap between the immature parietal bones in the skull of a fetus or infant. Also Fontanelle. You know what? And I know that one. Like, I don't even know it from Scrabble, but I know it from the context of, you know, infants having fontanelles, except I don't think I would have known the spelling ending with EL rather than ELLE, and so it's just not something that would have came to mind. So, that was the miss of the hour. Would not have won the game, but it would have recovered some dignity. And yeah, we'll just kind of see that my opponent did miss the parallel there. That would be an outplay. Missed a couple of outplays, but you know, at that point she's won, and it's just a matter of seeing if she can top 500. Would she have topped 500? Let's go back to this. 13 points. That's and only 4 points off me. 17. Nope. Yeah. Nothing getting her up to 500 anyway, then. This would have gotten her up to 498, but then I play out. Okay, pairings are going to come up, but if we have a bit of time, I'm going to sneak over to the log for the game that we had heard about earlier, where apparently there were some disconnected 9s, so... Yeah, this loss, pretty clear. Not challenging Booning, despite being in 5-point challenge, was the fluff of the game. Actually, no, we do have round 3 pairings coming up right about now, so what we will do instead is just play, and then afterwards I'll try to remember to go back to what we had heard about. Okay, going to have another tough opponent in my final game, but it is going to be an NWL game, so it's going to be on more familiar territory. It is, however, going to be on a board against a fairly tough NWL opponent, one of the... well, I mean, everybody here is pretty high-ranked in North America, so we'll see how it goes. And yeah, let's change our parameters. Now I don't know how he actually likes to pronounce this handle, whether it's a Yawika or something else. I mean, I've only ever seen it written. So we'll just get in there and we'll get off to a start. Okay. Going to wish him a good game, and then the W and U are the problem that we want to deal with right off the bat. Not really an elegant way to do that, though. I mean, you don't want to burn the S for something like unwise. I kind of want to change too. I mean, it's just the first turn, and a mulligan is not too bad. Because there aren't really any good ways to play off the W and a U at once. I might as well just change two. Don't know if there are any 7s in here. I should be thinking about 8s. C's no. ISM ending, IC, MIC ending. The UN start. This is not a rack that I do know cold. The H, of course, immediately it makes us look at CH or SH combinations. Failing that, it's not too bad to just play parallel with an M, like something like that. Yeah, not great, but anyway, the first play from my opponent, Nth, tells us that he is sitting extremely consonant heavy, probably one vowel or no vowels, and that this doesn't give us much to play through. The T is something we should think about as potentially part of our bingo rack. Don't know. Something like the IST ending, EST ending. Well, failing that, well... Now, if you do something like that, interestingly, the E actually does come in front, as well as on the end. What? No, that's not what I want to do. I typed that in incorrectly. Whoops. That was wrong. But if we are given an I, we could just like play invoices somewhere. I meant to play MIC. But I think I was thinking at the last minute, what can we do to get rid of the U? And having this play there does open up the I down this column, but that was actually a typo play. Well, let's just pray that we get an I on the board for invoices, but no. Not that easy. O does fit here. We should be trying to get rid of the V. However, something like this is not too bad. It's a decent use of the S on a board where the S is not really able to hook onto very much. Let's consider that for a moment. Yeah, we'll take it. We'll take it. Okay, IZE ending, I should say, is not really going to do much with this rack. However, yeah, we're really starved for vowel spots to play through. Now, one thing I could do is try to set up, like, here, well, not FIE, but, you know, that doesn't actually do what I wanted to do. But I was thinking, like, putting an I here somehow, setting up a Z spot for 60 points, but that's not going to happen. However, we do have not the right consonant here to work with. However, we do something like this. We do set up for the Z next turn, but I don't think that's really worth it with our current situation. So, because you would basically be committing to playing off the Z by itself next turn. It would look fancy, but it's not actually right. Now, then, what should we do? Really kind of an awkward situation. Look at sixes going down this way? No. Well, that would be about a 40-something point play on the next turn, so it averages out okay. I want to see if I can get away with it. I mean, we can even tag on the S for an extra 4 points, but that's not a very good use of the S even when undoubling. It's more that if you don't undouble, it's very unlikely that we draw into a very usable rack with the double S. So I'm very tempted to undouble like that and hope that we don't wind up being too vowel heavy, even though keeping 3 and 2 like that is not great. So, Yautia. We should also just look at whether or not we have any possibilities here and here. So the question partly is, do we play off that second S to try to draw something more flexible? I don't know, because the thing is, S is one of the few tiles usable in this spot currently. Not that a 3-tile play there is going to be very useful either. I say we do it. I feel like this is something. Should look at a T-I-O-N ending right away. That's not going to be anything. This feels like it's something maybe. S-I-O-N ending. Occasion through a C, but we don't have a C to work with. So. Well, we'll just have to wait and see. I did kind of expect that we would wind up too vowel heavy going out of that previous turn, but worst case, we just start to open up Dagobah system. Well, let's see here. And I'm pretty sure that is good. It just doesn't, as far as I know, take the H. Do or do not. There is no try. Let's see here. Want to open up somehow. This looks terrible. I can't do anything with it. But something, no H's left, but, you know, even more moderate tile like an M there. W would be terrible. W, MP, etc. B. They would cause all kinds of trouble. Yeah, something like this would open, at least. Would give you this lane here. Not many points, but would keep that open, keep this open. Yeah. Kind of flailing with that play. I feel like there's definitely something much better that should have been available. Okay, priorities here. W and A. Well, I mean, do we have anything to do? If that spot remains open, which I actually find kind of improbable given how juicy it is right now as one of the few real hot spots on the board, this is the obvious play. And if that gets obstructed, we'll have to look for some kind of second choice. This kind of defeats the point of opening, I think, because the C really locks up the top left corner. Cow would open that up to an S hook, but the issue is to double A. Okay, he's going to put Joe there. We are definitely taking this. Going to pull ahead slightly. Well, I mean, we were even, so it's just that I'm going to get ahead of pace a little with a nice fat play. Double C can be tricky to work with. Yeah, not quite caloric or anything like that. So a C play here might not be terrible, but it does kind of close things off even further. Okay, not really anything to work with here, although there is a selection of 3 T's left in the bag, so T is eventually a big threat. Go down that way. Currently, though, this is the juiciest hook on the board. I'm ahead. I don't need to leave things open. This would reopen a lane here, but you know what? I hold the other C. And I just need to hope my opponent doesn't have an initial S. Too many vowels. Too many vowels. Not something I necessarily would have expected from the current balance in the bag. I don't think I had a bad leave going into that by any means. But sometimes you just get draws like that. I drew EEI out of the bag. So, might even just play off 2 E's like that if I can. I feel like that's my first choice play with the current state of the board. I don't see a reasonable second choice play. I think this is airy, actually. Lit is good, so just dump like crazy. And that continues to close up. Eerie would also be good somewhere if it fits. No, I think... one thing I hadn't considered, too, is the lane going down to the N with the vowel ending. That's less worrisome than some, simply because... Oh, there we go, Torment. Do I have some kind of crazy 5-vowel play through the T? I don't think I do, but I don't like leaving that open. Blank still unseen. A lot of volatility created by a play like that. Anyway, choices I was looking at previously. T here, still 2-vowel heavy. Airy over here, actually a decent leave, but it does mean that all the action is going to happen down here. The main consideration is, do I feel comfortable leaving this? I am behind now after that play, so it's not like closing up should be a priority by any means. Do I have a good parallel? Go down here. That would dump a few vowels at once. That's something worth considering. Not really. It's not like ear. Still 2-vowel heavy. Something like these endings. Maybe just obstruct like that, but there's an X still available, so I'd want to do it like that. Yeah, 2-vowel leave, 24 points. Am I really that worried about the triple spot? Be more trouble than it's worth. 14. Okay, Q and X are going to land here for me. The first priority is to dump Q, if I can. Natural spot for it is going to be QAT up here. I think this is easily the first choice play if it remains available. If it doesn't remain available, then we panic or something. I mean, there is the U to play through if we want a small play. Not great. Obviously, huge step down from this. But with all this volatility open down here, maybe there's a reasonable chance that my opponent will A, play over here, and B, not do a world of damage. But that's the thing about Scrabble, you don't want to spend too many of your turns relying on prayer. So. Well, with 26 tiles in a bag and with a 20-minute start, we're both doing okay on time. We could be getting into a fairly close endgame, though, so I don't want to be blowing too many minutes. Type, okay. That's a good scenario for me. I can pull back here with the Q and look ahead to what we can do with the X. If we had another O, and there's only one more O in the bag, something like a Cooee, C-O-O-E-E, would have been pretty fancy down here. You know, just to have all those consecutive vowels that parallel, but those are the kind of fantasy plays that you don't work too hard towards. Yeah, currently it's just a matter of scoring with the E. Something like characters here is probably not that great given how many tiles fit between P and X for my opponent to be using that to hit me in return. However, an X play, just a standard linear X play going down here might have some potential. And okay, Keg's gonna go down there. Probably don't want to be leaving the X in that location, given that my opponent could get 30 back even without doing anything interesting in that spot. I feel like maybe something going down here is indeed what we should be looking for. Too many vowels on that. I was thinking about that because of the possibility to hook one of our E's or A's on top. One thing that we can do is lock up the triple, hold the X. The X is still pretty useful even if we are holding it. Let's lock it up. You know, in case my opponent is looking at anything really interesting going down here, although with the remaining consonants, it's not that you could have had a really deadly S something ending. But scores reasonably. We're holding somewhat usable tiles, I guess. Should have considered something like Prex, actually, with the P. Like, Prex... yeah, I don't know. It's actually fairly safe, it's just that we keep really clunky tiles, but clunky tiles that have a lot of vowels coming towards us. The issue is we now have an E hook coming down this way. E in this position. Problem is, we score with something like Prex. We're not drawing towards bingo potential with that BG G just budging in the way. And we're not drawing towards bingo potential. Like with a blank in the bag, my opponent is actually in much better shape to capitalize than I am. Lots of I's in the bag. We need to be aware of that. Lots and lots of I's. So even something like an I ending is a threat, even if it is less likely. Can we do something else with the X? Going down here or here? I actually kind of like it. It's not a huge power play with the X by any means, but the main thing I was worried about was drawing poorly into a situation where my opponent has a lane wide open. But as you can see in the pool now, he's got to contend with well, we've both got to contend with I, however, the pool, if you just have the right kind of combination in there, if you aren't swimming in the I's and the U's, that's actually a very bingo likely pool by the looks of it. And so, in terms of worrying about a huge play near the end, I should actually be concerned. The question is, how do we deal with it in this location? And indeed, even with the R here, that's something that we need to be very careful about. And then yeah, maybe some way to play through here too with the tiles that we have. I think our best bet would just be to somehow score here and block. But we'll see about how to do that. And urinate, yep. We got hit. Yep. Well, that was extremely foreseeable. And unless we fish one in a way that creates two lanes, we are just kind of dead, I think. Yeah. That was actually very predictable. But bees, not the bees. Obviously, if we're playing anything more than one tile, it means we're giving up on the possibility of a comeback bingo. But the only tile we would even consider using for that would be something like the bee. And without the blank on our side, I'd basically be counting on drawing the blank for an O for the O hooks, which would be blocked anyway because my opponent either has the O or the blank or both. So it's not like we could just dangle something that wouldn't be immediately blocked. I think we are just dead. So let's see what we can do. We might just start to play things off. Do I want to keep the S out of that? Yeah, probably. Keeps things flexible. Don't know if we have anything that would get rid of some of the junk. I mean, if I'm really strictly going for the win, I should be fishing off one tile, but I just do not see a way to do that that does not get immediately taken out somehow. So I think this game is kind of lost. Maybe this isn't the right approach, but... Now, is there anything we can even do with remaining tiles? Not really seeing it. But we'll walk through the board afterwards and see if there's anything that we can learn from this experience. So yeah, just going to hang on here until we see what my opponent is up to. Not really much to work with on his side either. Although, you know, having a blank like that in the end game, you never quite know what's going to happen. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. And yeah, I guess if there's one play that this ending really turned on, it's that we were very eager to spend the X at risk of leaving this lane open. And I did foresee that I might be hit with that, and I probably underestimated that, given that, you know, you see a play like FLW, my opponent is clearly rebalancing to play off clunky consonants. And so it's not like he's being fishy, it is that maybe he's holding blank at the time and feels pretty okay about leaving this lane open for himself. Okay, going to be Toil over there. Kind of think just maybe even playing that off. Though could be missing something obvious. I mean, yeah, just to get that out of the way. Now, does my opponent have an outplay with DIU blank? Not clear to me that he would, but blank does make it difficult to... Oh yeah, DUIT, like he would just go DUIT here, so... If we're not blocking that spot, we really do need to just... Well, we can. Julian, SMM, welcome. You're about to see me lose at Scrabble. This was the third of the rounds we were playing tonight. I hope everybody coming in from Julian's stream enjoyed what I believe was an Among Us party, right? And that those of you who watched Nintendo Direct had a good time with the announcements and are looking forward to Pyra and Mithra's new hot pants as much as the rest of us. So yeah, welcome everybody. Let's take that. And yeah, just running a bit of a bonus stream today to show off some high-level Scrabble play. I am losing this game. I won 1 out of 3 rounds tonight, and afterwards we're going to step through a post-game analysis on the analysis board. Those of you who are new here from Julian's stream, I am normally a Mario Maker streamer. We do viewer levels and often a lot of puzzle levels. And lately we just got back into streaming after quite a lengthy absence, so we're kind of easing our way back into more Mario content. So yeah, Yundatoro, hope you're doing well. So yeah, we are just about to wrap the live gameplay and are down by about 40 points. We'll see if our opponent finds DUIT with the blank here to wrap this up. Unless there is a better play that I'm unaware of. And yeah, Julian, I hope you can catch me as well. Lately I've been running mostly at the NA late night and EU morning time, so a lot of the Europeans like yourself are catching me before breakfast. And we've been running a combination of Ori and Will of the Wisps, which we started this week, and Mario Maker as usual, so. But yeah, also quite happy to finally deal in some Scrabble content, which we had been meaning to do for some time. But I hope you are well. I hope the announcements made your crew happy as well. I know that Kavik in particular is happy with the fact that we now no longer have any excuse to be putting off the Outer Worlds. Sorry, the Outer Wilds, I should say. Outer Wilds. Nudie, I'm pretty sure this is good, but let's challenge. And yeah, we'll go through the analysis board fairly quickly, but it does look like the end game there, which was just about tied for a while, to turn on my choice to play this instead of diffusing this lane here. So for those of you new here, we just played our third and final game of this session, but I will step through the post-game analysis and maybe look at one or two boards after that, and then we'll be off, and we'll probably raid somebody else. And since we have Mario people in here, I'll look for something appropriate. So let's go into the analysis. And yeah, so Julian, was it actually Among Us that you were running today, or have you also been back into the Mario? First turn here, I don't think I actually knew Unmew. Let's... Unmew, to release from confinement or restraint. And I guess this position would have led to an ING. My opponent tells me that, and we'll get to that when we see at the end of the game, that he saw the word linotype at the end of the game. And was thinking about that as a style play. And yeah, let me think about that. We did something, we just exchanged 2 on this turn. Obviously, if we had seen something like a 20 to 30 point play, we probably should have gone with that and get the S. But I think I was being excessively fishy at the very start, because, you know, you see the W and a U at the same time on your rack and you just kind of panic. My opponent has kind of a weird situation here where Nth is indeed, well, as I suspected, he did have an extremely consonant heavy rack. What I did not know was that both his T and H were doubled. And yeah, Julian, thanks for dropping by and bringing some people anyway. Glad to have you around, and I have lots of catching up to do when it comes to levels as well, so if you've created anything in the last 2-3 months, I still have to play it. Okay, what are we looking for now? Yeah, that's what my opponent plays. If he wants to play off that rack, that's pretty reasonable. It's a very closed up start. What did we miss? We missed Munchies, and I don't know how I missed Munchies. I even told myself to look for the CH position. And I was even, you know, fussing around with my rack and looking for similar things, and then we just completely missed it. So that's the kind of totally avoidable mistake. Oh yes, and this was the rack where I had a typo as well. I wanted to play MIC, and I was thinking about the U and just testing things out on the board, and I just hit enter by mistake. And if I had held on a bit longer, I wonder if I actually would have found Munchies, but I think at that point I was giving up a little too easily. Oh, look at this. That would have been fantastic if my opponent had found it. F-nil, very interesting variant on our selection of Scrabble chemicals. F-nil. Yeah, good night, Julian. See you around. And Unitoro, your Wi-Fi died? Yeah, I heard that. I don't know where you're from, but I heard that a lot of the United States has been having power problems, brownouts and so forth. I don't know if it's also the case where you are. But look at that, 52 points with a very difficult word to see, but one that would have solved most of his problems on the rack. So thank you, Yanditoro, for the follow. Here I was hoping for an I for invoices. That was not happening, but I missed co-invest for 92. And connives. And that's just a double-double, not a bingo, but very fancy as well. So yeah, totally missed a co-invest. So not demonstrating a great play here. But what did I end up going with? I ended up going with ovens, which, let's see how far down that is. Oh yeah, if I had looked at that a little further to look for possibilities that would keep the S, I would have kept the S, for sure. Yeah, definitely would have done that keeping CS rather than CI. Absolutely. So, maybe playing a little bit impatiently there. Yeah, my opponent did need to prioritize getting rid of the V, and that is what he did. Eco Zone, that would have been fancy. But, yeah. Well, yeah, let's continue looking at this. What actually happened on this turn? Yes, I was looking at that because I wanted to create the Z setup. I guess, you know, I also kept letters for Zoic, Azoic, etc. Yeah, Yundatoro, don't worry too much about following it. I'm doing a post-game analysis of the game that I just finished. And so I'm just inspecting the different plays that would have been possible on, in this case, my turn, and also on my opponent's turn, and seeing if there were any particularly big events that we narrowly missed out on. Look at that. Look at that. Zoetia. Let's define that. Oh yeah, Zoetium, of course. That would have been very, very fancy. Even though that would have left a pretty big spot down below. Anyway, Zed's setup was maybe not too terrible here. I was worried about it being too cautious a play, because I did commit to capitalizing on that location. And this was a nice find. I don't even know what a Yautia is, I think. Let's take a look. And it's a tropical plant. Okay. No, Yundatoro. Quictionary is a bot that was developed by a Twitch user named Scrabble Kitty, who created bot software that's the few people who stream Scrabble, I think almost all of us use it, and it's pretty fully featured. You can do anagrams and so on. You do, for example, I have to think about the commands that are actually possible, but you know, you can look for anagrams of a certain set of tiles. There's probably some command to look for the words that are in the name Yundatoro, but I don't remember what it is. Anyway, I did in fact, yeah, take the setup that I had created for myself for 50 points there. My opponent decides to search for the Dagobah system. Let's take a look at Dagobah. Dagobah is a Buddhist memorial shrine, also at Dagobah. And I think that was actually the namesake for the planet of Dagobah, with an H, of course, in The Empire Strikes Back. So, a very good find of an uncommon word from my opponent there. I was looking at that spot. I did not really think about that fancy parallel there. That really would have closed up the whole top half of the board, though. This would have, between that and the V spots here, and at that point, if you play something like that, top half of the board is just dead. So, I can see why I wouldn't have considered that, but what did I go for? I went for Ion. Ion is a little further down in value, but positionally, I think that was pretty defensible. So, Let's see what my opponent had here. He just played J-O down here on this turn, keeping the double R. Looks like there were some other 40-point plays that were available that he decided not to take, which was very fortunate for me. And yeah, just kind of considering the decisions here. I mean, I was very fortunate in that he was being fishy, and oh yes, because it was this spot that I wanted, and one of the other suggested plays that put J in this position, or Jitter or Jotter, would have killed the thing that I was going for. Because Wares here was a big play, big play for my side of the board. And I could really have suffered there from not having that as my first option. So, let's see. That's an interesting position. He did go for this because that does open up the T-hook, and you can see what he's doing here. That by playing Riot in this location, he is consciously keeping the second T for the T for Trod, because he knows that with an RET, he's very likely to hit something good quite soon, and that if you keep the T, a T ending is going to be a big threat going forward. So that was something that he knowingly set up for himself, and with 3 Ts unseen on my side of the board at that point, that was certainly a threat I needed to be aware of. I missed Coracle. I know Coracle, I just completely missed it. Because I saw the double C and got scared, I think, so. Let's take a look. Coracle is Welsh. A small boat made of wickerwork, covered with watertight material. Oh, okay, so it's probably not pronounced Coracle at all, it's probably just pronounced Currach. Something like that. So. It probably has some strange Welsh pronunciation. But it is a word I have seen before, and something that I should have considered. That said, not too unhappy with the position I ultimately chose, even though this spot was not as good as I occasionally thought it would be, given that it's only 6 tiles long before it runs into the V. So, yeah, this is guaranteed a bingo for my opponent on the T-spot that he just created for himself. And yes, Yundadoro, that is what it means. To be wary. Okay. So, yeah, it looks like the recommendation here is for one of these plays. I was looking at them, like, I was looking at plays like Serrate and such, and mostly worried about the fact that I was keeping 2 vowels together. I didn't like that. I did look at this play for TEE. What did I ultimately choose there? I ultimately went for Airy, and maybe that's not... Well, it doesn't actually show up on the evaluation, so the engine doesn't even consider it as a candidate play. But yeah, at that point, since the score was about even, maybe I should have considered taking that, but I really didn't want to leave myself with 2 vowels going into the next turn. This is a crazy word, a Gippler. Gippler. Let's take a look at what that means. A Gippler is a synthetic attractant to trap gypsy moths. Okay, it's a lure for gypsies, so it's a gyp lure. And that's how you remember that. It's a very strange word, but very difficult to find as well. You would often not even bother looking for a start like GYPL. Sure, it's extremely low on the probability list. And so instead my opponent goes for a type down there. I can see why he spent quite a while on that turn just to figure out what to do, because, you know, keeping glue there isn't fantastic. But I think he did want to make a priority out of defusing that spot on the bottom, which was lucky for me because I had the very obvious Q play. Yeah, wait a minute, what is this? Exacta. I don't know that I would have kept Q out of that, though. I think dumping the Q right away is clearly best. You always spill carbonated drinks. That's unfortunate. I hope you didn't just spill a carbonated drink, because then you would be in a sticky situation. Let's define exacta. It's a type of horse racing bet, which also takes an S on the end, so you can have exacta and exactas, if you know it. But no, my priority at that turn is dump to Q, so I'm comfortable with what I played. Lots of very kludgy plays that are available to my opponent on this turn, and he ultimately goes with Keg. And with the Q already on the board, I think he probably wasn't too comfortable with keeping the U, but to not keep the U, he would have needed to make some other plays to dump it. You can see how much higher the engine values plays that get rid of the U over plays that score decently to keep it. So for example, all these 20-point plays with the U valued much more highly than a 27-point play without the U, and because of the amount of damage it's doing to your rack, especially with the Q already on the board. So yeah, Yunda Toro, I mean, between that and your Wi-Fi going out, I hope your luck tonight turns around a bit. Exedra. Okay, didn't consider that. Does leave a very vulnerable spot here. Keeping two consonants with huge openings. I think even with 44 points, I don't know if I take that. What did I miss? Oh, did I really miss an obvious EX spot? Yeah, I should have just spent the X that turn instead of fooling around on the top corner. So I think this was kind of a bad move. We have points available with the X, we should just spend the X. And I think I was getting a little bit too fancy and having some tunnel vision in the top right corner. Really tough wreck for my opponent now because of his leave of LUNT, drawing FRW, and then you can see why right away he would take the obvious play, which I think he was actually, looking at this rack now, extremely fortunate to draw into a bingo immediately afterwards, even with 4 E's in a pool. So it's not like that was setting up for anything. You can kind of tell with a 3-tile consonant play that he's just mostly trying to dig himself out of a hole. This is still a good play. Zebek. Didn't consider it in that position, but keeping DGR like that is not great, even for my Mario Maker people in the stream. In this game, DGR is maybe not as highly valued. So yeah, I did go for the 3rd highest play by evaluation, but if I'd even just looked at the obvious here and scored that additional 9 points, that would not have saved me from what is to come. But I think the difficulty with that play is that I'm going into the endgame with very few tiles remaining, 11 tiles at this point, and I'm keeping 4 consonants out of 5 tiles. And so I would be getting into a very clunky and unplayable situation, and so I think playing off that additional consonant is fine. I just don't know if it's so fine that you want to sacrifice 9 points. And that's going to be a very clear bingo play there. He's just going to go for urinate and kind of take a bit of a leak on my chances of winning this game. Missed the huge parallel there. That would not have been enough to come back and win. This is kind of a lost game at this point, I think. Nothing really positionally can be done to recover that with 1 tile in the bag. and with all the tiles being very low point, such that I can't recover much of a difference at the end, even if I do race him out. Anyway, this is what my opponent was talking about privately in the chat after the game. He did spot that he could have done something like idiotype or linotype. Now, he was telling me about linotype and saw afterwards that he might have had idiotype. Linotype he declined to play because he didn't know if DUI would remain open on this spot afterwards. Idiotype I think he just wasn't certain about. But any of those would have been really fancy as an extension in front of type. So, let's just pull that down. And he goes for toil there instead. What does toil keep? Keeps in DUI blank? That's fairly flexible. It does give him options to beat me to the finish. Bed was indeed the best play. And yeah, Bag's scores 20 points, but is valued as 1 point less because you are keeping 4 points on your rack rather than keeping 2 points on your rack. And so, spread-wise, this is the best I can do in what was already a lost position. Well, a lot of alternatives, but nudie, which my opponent found, was about as good a play as he could send me. So that does that for the analysis of our third and final game. Our record was 1-2 tonight. We played 2 games of Collins, 1 game of the NWL North American Lexicon, and we'll just do one last thing before we close up, which is, I heard that our club lobby had a really interesting game earlier tonight, and I'll see if I can find it. And yeah, it would be the one between... Oh, I don't know if it's actually recent enough that I can grab it. Just one moment while I see if I can grab it through the player profiles. Just one moment. Grab my Mario card there. And... okay, no, we found it, So we'll walk through this game very, very quickly to show you what went on. These two are very strong players. And they are playing in the Collins Dictionary in this round. And let's see if we can find a position that they were talking about. This one? Philonia. No, I don't think so. They're very good, but sometimes even they don't find stuff like that. Yeah, so I had heard that this game had 2 really spectacular plays. Yeah, look at this. So, I guess we spoiled the solution already, but, you know, you see this rack and you start instinctively looking for 7-letter words, like, you know, you see, whoops, like retrial or trailer, etc. But then what he did instead was retailers through the E and the S and have a 9-letter play, and I think that actually went down on this board. Yeah, retailers, which is crazy. This rack here is like rings when it says 7, but nothing in that position. Some more awkward words and plays here, and then is this where you have a blank, and yeah, they're both kind of dancing around each other here. This could have been glittery. Does it go down? No, it didn't. He missed glittery. This must be what we're looking for. Ah, yes, that's right. So we had a second 9-tile play. Oh, sorry, 9-letter play through here this game, which is very rare. You don't often find people even bothering to look for plays through 2 disconnected tiles, which are extremely difficult to see, and so Noah got one earlier with Retailers, and MMM Mice seems to have gotten one here with Teachings, which is crazy. So, 2 extremely fancy plays from these 2 players, and they end up having a bit of a larger difference by the end, with Noah pulling ahead in a Q6 situation. And yeah, even as somebody who winds up being stuck with a Q, he finishes about 70 points ahead, but still pretty spectacular to see a board like this. And look at all the other bingos here too. Avenir's, Veliest. Very fancy play, even if they are missing some things along the way. I mean, this is still very much a fine demonstration of the art form. Okay, so that will be it for me for this stream. We're going to be done for today. We'll see in future weeks if we are able to do more coverage of our club games. And, you know, because otherwise this is a bit of an unusual streaming hour for me, and that I'm usually not able to do it. But until then, we are going to be back on our late night NA and morning EU schedule, continuing Ori and Will of the Wisps, as well as getting back into Mario Maker over the weekend. So we have a low enough viewership at this point that I don't know if we will send you along on a raid, but I will scan around regardless and see whether anybody seems receptive. Until then, thanks for watching. Thanks for joining me for this rather unexpected special on short notice. And yeah, we will send you along to one of the other Scrabble streams. We'll send you along to Axer Typo, who is a far better player and who is pretty fancy sometimes about what he does on club night in terms of self-imposed constraints. So have fun, good night, and fare thee well.